This is the audio version of Great White Shark. Text analysis. Evidence in informational text. Writers of informational text usually support their claims with evidence, such as facts, which are statements that can be proved. Be sure that you can tell the difference between factual claims and opinions or commonplace assertions. A factual claim is a statement that can be proved from evidence such as a fact, personal observation, reliable source, or an expert's opinion. An opinion is a statement of personal belief, feeling, or thought which does not require proof or evidence. A commonplace assertion is a statement that many people assume to be true, but which is not necessarily so. As you read, look for evidence that will help you distinguish factual claims from opinions and commonplace assertions. Great White Sharks by Peter Benchley. Analyze visuals. What might you infer about the great white shark from this photograph? Considering the knowledge accumulated about great whites in the past 25 years, I couldn't possibly write Jaws today. Not in good conscience, anyway. Back then, it was generally accepted that great whites were anthropophagus. They ate people by choice. Now we know that almost every attack on a human is an accident. The shark mistakes the human for its normal prey. Back then, we thought that once a great white scented blood, it launched a feeding frenzy that inevitably led to death. Now we know that nearly 3/4 of all bite victims survive, perhaps because the shark recognizes that it has made a mistake and doesn't return for a second bite. Back then, we believed that great whites attacked boats. Now we know that their sensory systems detect movement, sound, and electrical fields, such as those caused by metal and motors in water. And when they approach a boat, they're merely coming to investigate. Granted, investigation by a 3,000-pound animal can wreak havoc. Finally, back then, it was okay to demonize an animal, especially a shark, because man had done so since the beginning of time, and besides, sharks appeared to be infinite in number. Demonize means to give evil, demonic qualities to. No longer. Today we know that these most wonderful of natural-born killers, these exquisite creatures of evolution, are not only not villains, they are victims in danger of, if not extinction quite yet, serious, perhaps even catastrophic decline. Much of the evidence is anecdotal. Anecdotal means based on observations rather than scientific analysis. Fishermen and naturalists are seeing fewer great whites, and in most places, those they are seeing are younger and smaller. Scientists estimate that worldwide, populations of some species have dropped by 80%. Though precise numbers of great white sharks aren't known, there is a growing consensus that they are not reproducing at a rate sufficient to maintain the population. Consensus means general agreement. What is known now is that great white sharks, scarce by nature and growing scarcer thanks to contact with man, are, for all their grace and power and manifest menace, remarkably fragile. Nowadays, more people are coming to respect and appreciate sharks for what they are: beautiful, graceful, efficient, and, above all, integral members of the ocean food chain. In large measure, the change is due to television and the abundance of films documenting not only the glories from sharks, but also the dangers to them from long lines, nets, and the odious practice of finning, slicing the fins off sharks to sell in Asian markets, then tossing the living animals overboard to die. Gradually, governments and individuals are learning that while a dead shark may bring $10 or $20 or even $50 to a single fisherman, a live shark can be worth thousands of more dollars in tourist revenue to a community. Divers will fly halfway around the world to see great white sharks. Immodestly, I claim some credit for the change in attitude. For while the Jaws phenomenon was blamed for distorting the public's view of sharks and causing sporadic outbreaks of macho mayhem, it also generated a fascination with, and over time, an affection for sharks that had not existed before. Looking at the caption, "Shark Finning in the Pacific Ocean." This 17-foot great white shark was caught in the Atlantic Ocean. It weighed a record-breaking 3,500 pounds. These days, I receive more than 1,000 letters a year from youngsters who were not alive when Jaws appeared, and all of them, without exception, want to know more about sharks in general and great whites in particular. The caption, "A great white shark in South Africa jumps out of the water to attack a seal." Great white sharks are among the true apex predators in the ocean. The largest predatory fish in the world, they have few natural enemies, and so, in balanced nature, there are not very many great whites, and the number grows or shrinks depending on availability of food. They breed late in life and pup relatively few. Again, nobody knows exactly how many, but 7 or 8 seems to be a safe average. The youngsters appear alive, 4 or 5 feet long, weighing 50 to 60 pounds, fully armed and ready to rumble. Still, many don't survive the first year because other sharks, including great whites, will eat them. Of all the infuriating unknowns about great white sharks, none is more controversial than size. How big can they grow to be? Fishermen from Nova Scotia to South Australia, from Cape Town to Cape Cod, claim to have encountered 25-footers, 30-footers, even 36-footers. Usually the proof offered is that the beast was, quote, bigger than the boat. There have been reports of a 23-footer in the waters off Malta and a 21-foot, 7,000-pounder off Cuba, but none was held up under scrutiny. Scrutiny means close examination or study. The largest generally accepted catch, made by lasso of all things, was a shark 19.5 feet long. The largest great white shark ever caught on rod and reel weighed 2,664 pounds. According to British biologist Ian Ferguson, chairman of the Shark Trust, no great white shark longer than 19.5 feet has ever been validated. And in a widely circulated email, he expressed irritation at, quote, this stubborn reluctance by some elements of the media to accept the facts, and even more of a reluctance to accept that a 16-foot, 4,500-pound shark is big, very big, and should need no further exaggeration to impress even the most discerning of viewers when seen up close. I can attest that underwater, cruising toward you out of the gloom with the serene confidence of the invincible, a 12-foot great white looks like a locomotive with malice in mind. At the moment, science accepts about 400 species of sharks, but the number changes as new species are discovered. Of all known species, only 4 attack human beings with any frequency: bull sharks, tiger sharks, oceanic whitetips, and great whites. In Australia between 1876 and 1999, 52 attacks by great whites were recorded, and of them 27 were fatal. In the Mediterranean Sea since 1900, there have been 23 reliably recorded encounters with great whites, including one in 1909 in which the remains of 2 adults and a child were found inside a single 15-foot-long female shark caught off Augusta, Sicily. The old adage is true. A swimmer has a better chance of being struck by lightning than killed by a shark. And around the world, many, many more people die every year from bee stings, snake bites, falling off ladders, or drowning in bathtubs than from shark attack. None of which, to be sure, detracts from the ghastly, visceral horror of being eaten by a huge fish, but all of which should give comfort to the recreational swimmer. Visceral means instinctive. More and more these days, it is the naturalists and field operators, guides and dive masters who are contributing to the accumulation of practical knowledge about great whites. To cite just one example, until recently, scientists thought that the scars that mar nearly every mature shark were acquired either from prey that fought back or from ritual biting by prospective mates. Prospective means likely to be or become. Now there is eyewitness testimony of aggressive social interaction between sharks and also of spectacular threat displays that take the place of major, potentially fatal, encounters with other white sharks. A caged diver in South Australia comes face to face with a great white shark. So we are learning, bit by bit, anecdote by anecdote, more and more about these magnificent predators. We must hope that we're learning enough to save them before, through ignorance and inadvertence, we destroy them. Inadvertence means a lack of attention or carelessness. Great white sharks have survived, virtually unchanged, for millions of years. They are as perfectly in tune with their environment as any living thing on the planet. For them to be driven to extinction by man, a relative newcomer, would be more than an ecological tragedy. It would be a moral travesty. Travesty means a degraded or grotesque likeness.